I just decided to start believing that God purposely made me overweight so that I could have a transformation and one day help others do the same. It sounds weird, but if I would have just thought being lean or having my dream body or being extremely healthy, being really fit was just a possibility for me, like it was just yeah, I guess it's possible, I wouldn't have done it. No changes would have been made. Nothing would have happened. It's because when you go into any type of behavior change, especially in fitness, there has to be an identity shift. When I was in college, I spent all 4 years of college working to lose weight and lean out, and I made a little bit of progress. Like I would say I lost and gained the same 10 pounds over and over again, but I didn't actually see the changes that I wanted to see because there was no identity shift. I didn't really think I was meant to live in a body that I really wanted. I didn't really think that I could look like a girl who was on Pinterest. I didn't really think that that was who I was meant to be. I kind of always considered myself just a little bit bigger, just a little bit bulkier. That's just how I look. That's just how I am. And so when I decided to flip it and just start believing, no, I was meant to love exactly how I look. Essentially, I had to believe that not only was it possible for me, but it was what was meant for me in order for me to actually do something about it. It's all in your head. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about when it comes to fitness because I used to think that I would just have to follow a certain workout plan or a certain diet, and then I would see the results that I want to see, right? Just follow this influencer's plan, cut out this food, do this, and then you'll drop 10 pounds in 3 weeks, easy. I wasn't even really thinking about any type of mindset shifts at the time. That's not really what we talk about when we talk about fitness. We talk about what we're doing physically, what we're eating, what we're doing in the gym. Nobody really talks about what's going on in our mind. And that's why I'm so passionate about the psychological side of fitness. And that's what we're really diving into today, okay? I'm going to read you a bunch of different passages from a few of my favorite books. We're going to go into the Bible. We're going to talk about how to have a fitness transformation that starts in your mind and then leads to something external, okay? So doing the internal work that is necessary in order to have an external transformation. Super interesting concept. It really is all in your head. I want to start by reading a part of one of my favorite books. I never hear anyone talk about this book. This is called It's All in Your Head. It's by Russ. And it's based off of these 3 principles of delusion, persistence, and gratitude. So the first one we're focusing on is delusion because I truly do believe you have to be delusionally optimistic to get what you want in life, especially if it's something that doesn't seem realistic. You have to do more than just believe it's realistic. You have to believe that it is meant for you. So that's what we're going to start with. This isn't just in the introduction. He says, to win, you need to get out of your own way. You need to decide whether to be your greatest obstacle or your biggest fan. The secret is being able to ride out the time between when you're the only one that believes that's what is in your head is actually going to come to fruition and the moment it actually does. That period is when everything can go left. It can make the most confident mind doubtful. That's where you lose. As soon as you start doubting yourself or you feel like that you aren't really meant for great things, that's where it becomes impossible. So I had my biggest physical transformation after college. And the reason for it was because of these concepts I'm talking about. It really was all in my head. Because all throughout college, I saw myself as someone who's super social, prioritizes her friends, goes out and parties and drinks. And that's great. I think that was a perfectly fine mindset to have in college. That's an identity that I don't really see a problem with, especially when I was in college. That's kind of what you do. But what's really interesting is I never saw any results until after college, and I started believing that I have no excuses now of who I am to not be as healthy as I want to be. There was no part of me that would excuse oh, well, I'm in college, so I don't really need to be, the absolute shredded version of myself. I don't really need to put my everything into my fitness journey right now because that's just not where I'm at in life. I'm just here to enjoy college right now. This is, everyone tells you when you go into college, this is the best 4 years of your life. So that's where my head was at. Then I graduated and I was okay, what's my excuse now? Now I have no excuse or no out, no sub identity to excuse not doing the things that I've always wanted to do. So that's where a lot of this happened. And once I started realizing that, okay, this was my time, this was the time in my life where I'm going to achieve this, that's when I started picking up on things that I was not picking up on in college. So that's when I started getting a lot more intentional with, okay, not only did I skip a workout, but why did I skip a workout? Like, I was becoming a little bit more conscious of, what I was doing and why I was doing it. And this became super, super relevant when we talk about food and tracking and everything like that. Because in college, I would track my calories a little bit and track my macros, and I loved doing it. Like, it was a great habit to have. We'll get into the importance of tracking your food and what differences it can make in your life if you learn how to do it in a healthy way. But I wasn't really being that intentional with, like, when I went over my calories, like, why did I do that? I wasn't really doing any internal work to figure out what was causing me to not see the results that I wanted to see. And once I did start doing that, that is when my life changed. So once I started asking myself, okay, what part of me wanted to eat everything on my plate even after I wasn't full? Like, where was that coming from? What was I looking for the food to bring me that I wasn't getting from my life? And at the time, it felt like a stupid question. Like, it was like, well, I'm just addicted to food, or I just love food, or like, there was pasta in front of me. Why wouldn't I eat the whole thing? Like, it tastes amazing. That short-term gratification is just too hard to resist. And I just decided there had to be a deeper reason. Like, there had to be a reason why I physically had, like, a stomach ache, but I wanted to keep eating because I could look around at all my friends who, at the time, were very lean. Like, I had a lot of fit friends. I think this is very relatable to anyone who wants to make a change in their life, is they start to pick up on, like, oh, wow, she's extremely fit, or she's really lean, she's really skinny, and she eats whatever she wants. Like, she can just eat nonstop all day, whatever she wants. She doesn't have to think about it, and her body doesn't change. You start to pick up on those things when you're stuck in your head about, what you look like and what you want to look like. So I was picking up on those things, and I was realizing, okay, what is different about me? Like, there has to be something different about the way I'm approaching food, or the reason that I want to keep eating when nobody else does. And so through a lot of reading, journaling, studying, writing, speaking, teaching, I eventually came to the conclusion it really is all in your head. Like, it really, every change that you want to see in your fitness journey starts in your mind. Like, you can try to do the perfect workout program, the most optimal exercises, the most optimal diet. You can try to do all of that, and it might work. But, like, if you don't actually understand why you make the choices that you make and how that leads to the life that is in front of you, you're not going to get very far, because fitness is not like a cookie cutter situation. Like, there's not a one size fits all for workouts, for diet, for lifestyle change. There's not a one size fits all for lifestyle change. Okay. There's not like a PDF that you can download from your favorite influencer that's going to tell you why you eat the way you eat, why you work out the way you work out, why you have the habits that you have. These are things that you have to go out and do the internal work to figure out in order to be successful. And if this is true, and we know that it all starts in our head, it's really important that we remember, okay, we can learn to love anything. Like, you can learn to love the process that turns you into the best version of yourself. You don't have to be miserable to do it. You really don't have to go through any type of, like, suffering, or pain is kind of a relative term, but you don't have to go through any pain or anything that makes you miserable or cranky or antisocial or hungry or starving. Like, you don't have to go through any of that in order to become the healthiest version of yourself. And I'm going to prove it to you. A lot of times we associate discipline with pain. Like, we think, okay, I just have to lock in, I have to do an aggressive cut, and then I'm going to be shredded, and then I can enjoy my summer. Like, I just have to, like, go through 3 months of misery, cut out the sugar, and then, I'm going to be fit and it's going to be great. There's a few different issues with this. Well, okay, there's actually a lot of issues with this, but I'm going to start with the main one, which is what happens when you lose the weight. Like, let's say that does work. Let's say you cut out sugar. Let's say you cut out all of your favorite foods. Like, what happens afterwards? Can you eat those foods now? Because you didn't really learn how to eat them in moderation or at all and still maintain the way you look. Like, I guarantee you, anything you cut out to lose weight, if you have to add it back in at some point in your life, it's going to be really hard to not gain the weight back or to reverse the results that you saw. Also, it helps to think really far into the future and think about, like, what the best version of yourself would do, how she would live, how she would act, and I don't know about you, but I don't think the best version of myself would be scared to eat pasta. Like, I don't think that I would receive a bowl of pasta and be worried about the calories. Like, I don't think the best version of me would want to see food that way. And this is kind of what I've ended up building my whole brand off of, is like this whole concept of like, you should go do all your favorite things, eat your favorite foods, go hang out with your favorite people, go be social, go live your life to the fullest in order to become the best version of yourself, so that when you do become the best version of yourself, you didn't have to cut anything out to get there, and you don't have to do any more restriction. It all goes back to the topic of sustainability. Okay. So, if you want changes that are sustainable, that are going to last your entire life, you have to do things that you could do for your entire life. Like, I didn't cut out sugar to have a transformation because I didn't want to not have sugar for the rest of my life. Now, this is relative because obviously there's certain things with like thermodynamics of like, okay, in order to be in deficit, you have to be burning more calories than you're eating. And obviously you don't need to do that for the rest of your life in order to maintain your results. So this is a little bit relative, but for the most part, any habit, like any external habit that you're adding into your life in order to have a transformation, you're going to have to maintain. So you might as well learn to love it, and you might as well get really efficient at it and just fall in love with the process, because the results aren't going to happen quickly if you're doing it in a sustainable way. Like, let's just be honest here. You're not going to see the scale drop 10 pounds within the first week if you're doing this in a slow, gradual, sustainable way. So that's why you have to be really smart about how you're measuring your progress. You always have to measure your progress based off of where you're improving, what you're learning, what habits you're changing, not what the scale is saying, what you look like, how your clothes are fitting. Those things are great, and those things can definitely be used to measure progress, and they should. But on the day-to-day, you shouldn't be waking up, looking in the mirror, seeing how skinny you look. You should be waking up, looking in the mirror and asking, how do I feel today? Do I feel like I stuck to what I said I was going to do yesterday? Do I feel like I set goals for my day yesterday? Do I feel like I did my best with the situation I was given? These are the questions you should be asking yourself to measure your progress, because if you don't think that you're making any progress, it is going to be really, really hard for you to keep going. Like, impossible. One of the biggest sources of motivation is seeing changes, like seeing progress. So if we can't see changes on the scale right away, we have to see changes somewhere. That somewhere is, did I stick to the meals that I had planned yesterday? Did I stick to the workout that I had planned? Did I get my steps in? Those are the changes that we need to focus on in order to have the motivation to keep going, to eventually see the scale move down, to eventually see the changes in the progress pictures, to eventually see the clothes start fitting differently, things like that. I want to give you an example of what I mean by you can learn to love anything, okay? So I used to have a really bad relationship with tracking my food and tracking my macros. I started seeing food as a number. I got really restrictive. I felt like I couldn't eat anything that was over, like, 600 calories. Like, every meal that was bigger than 600 calories was like a mistake. So I used to have a really bad relationship with food and tracking and things like that. But after college, I knew that tracking, like objectively tracking, was a helpful tool. Like, I wanted to be able to see what nutrients I was getting in from what meals. And I just wanted to learn more about like different micro and macronutrients. Like, I knew tracking was not objectively a bad thing. Okay. So I knew I wanted to use it somehow. So I just decided to start romanticizing it. I started to see it as, okay, this is like tracking my finances. So this analogy will change your life. Tracking your food is like tracking your expenses. The goal of tracking your expenses is not to spend as little money as possible. It's just to gather data on where your money is going and why it's going there and where it can be allocated elsewhere. That is exactly what we are doing with your food when we decide to track your food. We're not trying to eat as little as possible, okay? We're trying to see where our nutrients are going, what our food is doing for us, how it's playing out in our life, in order to understand and have that data of like, okay, how could we use this in order to be in deficit to lose weight, or in order to be in a surplus to gain muscle? You're just gathering data. It's just an experiment. You're really just trying out different things. It's all in your head, okay? So much of this is so psychological. If you learn to love tracking, which easier said than done, I know. I learned to love it because I started seeing it as an opportunity for me to eat all my favorite foods in moderation, like what I was talking about earlier. Like, I did a whole series. Actually, I'm still doing this series. I've been doing this for almost a year, of eating comfort foods to get shredded. So purposely taking all of my favorite comfort foods like mac and cheese, pizza, pasta, bread, like any food that you would consider a comfort food. I figured out ways to make it really macro friendly through a lot of tracking, like a lot of understanding what nutrients can we add into this meal in order to make it have the same macros as like something that it people something that's like known to be more healthy, like chicken and rice or uh, ground beef and potatoes or whatever. Like, basically decided to just commit to figuring out how I could make really, like, unhealthy foods, like cake, and have it have the same exact macros as, like, chicken and rice. It's a really fun concept. If you haven't looked at that series, go check it out because it's awesome. But anyways, romanticizing things like that made me want to do it more. It made me fall in love with it, and then that's what kept me consistent. It wasn't, I just need to force myself to do it. Like, I just need to lock in. It's gonna suck, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I think that mindset has a time and a place, especially for men. Personally, I work with women, so when I speak about, learning to love the process and romanticizing it, it's because I typically work with a lot of women, and I just know that that works. I think there's a time and a place to use darker motivation as well, even for women too. Like more David Goggins type of motivation. I do think that has a time and a place. I don't think being an optimist or being really optimistic about your fitness journey is about hiding the things that are negative or like that you don't want to think about. Okay, I do think that has an extremely important part in the process because we have to know what we're running away from. We have to understand the thing that gets us to like really chase after our goals, like really cross the finish line and see amazing changes is not usually what we're running towards, but more what we're running away from. So you have to hold this tension of being really optimistic that this is meant for you, but also that, the thing that you're running away from is pretty bad. In my mind, I knew if I didn't make a change, there was a chance that I wouldn't ever be in control over how much weight I was gaining or what I looked like or my self-control around food. Like, I knew that there was a really bad situation coming if I didn't make a change. So that is extremely important to tie in with the, you were meant for great things. So there's a beautiful yin and yang there of understanding what it's like to be an optimist, but also hold space for understanding that you shouldn't be hiding things from yourself. Like, there should never be a time where you're purposely ignoring negative thoughts or trying to push them away or distract yourself from them. Like, you can hear them. My favorite way to think about this is Layla Hormozi taught me this. If you imagine your thoughts as cars passing by on a road in front of you, you can see each of your thoughts and you can acknowledge them that they're there. Like, okay, there's a red car going by, there's like a black car going by, whatever. But you have the decision whether or not you are going to ask the car to stop and get in it and follow where it's going. So let's say that red car that is driving by you is a negative thought. It would be wrong, in my opinion, to just try and pretend like you don't see it, like try and ignore the negative thought. So what you should do instead is look at it, acknowledge that it's there, and then just decide, I'm not going to follow that train of thought. So let me give an example. Let's say you wake up one morning super bloated, like you just feel terrible. You feel like you ate way too much the day before. You feel like you're gaining weight, like you just feel awful. So you start spiraling and you look in the mirror and you think, oh my gosh, I'm gaining weight. Like I'm failing, I'm messing up. I ate way too much yesterday. You can acknowledge that those thoughts are there, but you need to take a third party view of yourself. So imagine you're a sim. I always think, when I think third person, I think sim. Does anyone else think that? Probably not. But anyways, imagine that you are a sim looking down at yourself and acknowledge the fact that, you have those thoughts, that you woke up feeling terrible and that spiraled into, I'm gaining weight, I'm failing. You can intentionally choose not to get in that car and follow that train of thought for the rest of your day. You can acknowledge it and say, okay, it's interesting that I woke up bloated and then I started my day with this mindset of I'm failing, I'm gaining weight. And then see how that plays out in your day, because I don't know about you, but I don't think it's going to play out very well. Whereas if you acknowledge that thought and you just say, okay, I understand that that's kind of where my mind goes. I'm going to take some time right now to journal about it, to think about it, to understand why I associate waking up bloated with gaining weight. Because realistically, when we really think about it, we all know waking up bloated does not mean that you gained weight. It means that you maybe just had more food the day before, or there's more food in your digestive system, or you had more salt, more carbs, or whatever. There's a lot of different reasons why you wake up bloated. But just being conscious of the fact that like you start to associate that with something negative, and then that's where you spiral, and that's how you start your day, and then that's where a lot of negative things come up in your day. Just being aware of that process and acknowledging it and deciding not to follow it is really, really helpful, because you're always going to have negative thoughts. Like, there's always going to be things that come up that you have to decide whether or not you want to believe that that's true for you or not. Okay, so going back to romanticizing the process and thinking about, discipline and the difference between like miserable discipline and motivating discipline, I'm going to read you a passage from one of my favorite books of all time. This is by Ryan Holiday. It's called Discipline is Destiny. And this is literally at the very beginning of the book, just in part one. I just really like the way he frames discipline. Okay, because again, we tend to see discipline as something that's like miserable, negative suffering, but really, discipline is an absolute privilege to have in your life. It says, it's all about being able to go the distance and steering clear of the blind alleys and mirages along the way. If we don't dominate ourselves physically, who and what does dominate? Outside forces, laziness, adversity, entropy, atrophy. We do the work today and always because it's what we're here for. And we know that while it might seem easy to take it easy and more pleasurable to indulge in our pleasure centers in the long run, it's a far more painful route. This mindset shift that it is more painful for you to have short-term gratification than long-term gratification is life-changing. You have to convince yourself that being disciplined is so much more enjoyable than not being disciplined. So the delayed gratification of saying no to eating 10 cookies at dinner last night is so much more enjoyable than if you would have just said, I'm just going to eat 10 cookies and then, I'll do better tomorrow. Committing to your goals when you know it's not easy is probably one of the best, most satisfying feelings that you can have. And when you make that switch, all of a sudden discipline doesn't feel painful or negative or like suffering. It feels really, really motivating. This is the difference between a discipline that gives you misery and discipline that motivates you, okay? So if you want your discipline to work for you, you have to convince yourself that being disciplined is the easiest life you could ever live. In my mind, if I were to just not really work out, not care about what I eat, not care about getting movement in, that is a really hard life for me to live. Like I've convinced myself that that would be my most painful life because I wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't be able to wake up every morning excited, feeling refreshed, feeling ready, having energy. Like that would be a really painful life for me. And you can use this mindset with every other habit in your fitness journey, okay? So in my mind, not working out or not like, okay, in my mind, skipping a workout is really, really painful because then I have to deal with feeling a little bit like lazy the rest of the day. And I don't like feeling like that. I've made the pain of skipping the workout so much worse. In my mind, like that is my worst case scenario. That sounds dramatic, but it's so helpful because then again, you start to realize like, oh no, I'm actually going to show up better in my life and for the people in my life and be able to be more present and be fully myself if I am disciplined now so that I can, move on with my day and say that I did everything I said I was going to do. And then I can be more present with the people I love, my social life, everything like that. So discipline should give you motivation, not misery. Okay, now I want to turn this to the Bible and talk about what the Bible says about being delusionally optimistic about your goals, because this is where it gets super interesting. Okay, Ephesians 3:20 says, "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine according to his power that is work within us." God literally gives us permission to be delusionally optimistic, okay? You are literally given the opportunity to understand God is going to do things in your life that are far greater than you could ever imagine. So why not be delusional about the things that he could do in your life? Like, why not just think that he has some incredible things planned that your brain can't even comprehend the amazing things that are going to happen in your life. Isn't that incredible? Like, isn't that an amazing opportunity that we have to be really, really optimistic about what's coming for us? I think a lot of times as Christians, we like to be really passive because we like to think, oh, well, it's all on God's timing. It's all God's plan. And I think there's some truth to that. But also the Bible literally tells us that we can renew our mind and some amazing things can happen. Like we have the ability and the choice to think differently about how we see the world and what actions we choose to take. And that can change your life. Like that, you can see the changes that you want to see in your life just by renewing your mind. Okay. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." It is all in your head. You can do some incredible things if you choose to renew your mind. Also, the time will pass anyways, so why not just be delusional about what's going to happen? Like, this is just, you can really just view this as an experiment in your life of like, okay, I'm just going to try for this week to be super optimistic about everything. Like, I'm just going to try and assume that everything's going to work out for me. You can just do that. Like, you can literally just decide everything is going to work out for me this week. Like, I am one of God's favorites this week. Like, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Everything is going to happen is exactly how it's supposed to. I'm going to be in the right place in the right time every single second of the day this week. And what's the worst that could happen? Like, You maybe get a little bit disappointed that maybe that's not how the week ended up going, but the advantages of thinking this way are unbelievable because when you approach your day that way of like, I'm one of God's favorites, like everything is gonna work out for me, you're gonna see so many more opportunities for some really, really amazing things. Like you're going to see changes in your life that you would not have seen if you would have started your day with, "Oh, my life sucks. Like the sky is gray today. I don't feel good. I feel bloated. I'm tired. I don't wanna go to work." You're not gonna see the opportunities you need to see in order to become the best version of yourself when you start your mind that way, when you start your day that way. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Don't be passive about your goals. Like, go after what you want. Understand that, like, you are in the driver's seat. The Bible is your navigation system, okay? You are the one in control of the car. Like, you have the ability and the choice to renew your mind, to do all these amazing things. God is your navigation system, okay? So, in my opinion, you're gonna be lost without him. Like, you're not gonna be able to know where you're going, what you're doing, like, you're not gonna be able to find your way. But your navigation system isn't driving your car. Like, your GPS isn't doing it for you. You have to go after what you want. In my opinion, that's more biblical than leaning back and just, letting Jesus take the wheel, just assuming, like, he's gonna put in front of you whatever he needs to, which again, there's some truth to that. Like I do think, God's going to bring you the opportunities that are meant for you. And sometimes it requires none of your activity. Like sometimes it really does work out that way. But I also think the Bible does command us to go after what we want, to be really locked in this mindset of like, you can do all things that through him. Like you really can. You have the opportunity to. Once you start believing that, that's where you're going to see some amazing changes in your life. And it's all going to come from your head. Okay, I want to leave you with some journaling prompts to make sure that this actually gets turned into action. Okay, I want to leave you with some actionable things that you can do based off of everything we just talked about to make sure that you see the changes in your life that you deserve to see. So I'm going to leave you with some journaling prompts. First one is I want you to list out any of the big long-term goals that you don't really feel like is realistic for you right now. Just list out 3 or 4 of them and then put them in third person and present tense, okay? Okay, so let's say you've struggled to be really consistent with tracking your food and it's a habit that you want to get into. So rather than writing out the goal of, I want to start tracking my food, put it in third person. Caitlin wants to start tracking her food and then put it in present tense. Caitlin tracks her food. There, identity shift. It's who you are now. It's what you do. That's your goal. I want you to do that with a bunch of the goals that you have that you think aren't really realistic for you right now or that you feel like you have to be kind of delusional to believe that they're a possibility. Tracking your food is just an example. You can be way more ambitious than that. You could say something like, if you want to become an influencer, if you want to make an impact on the world, don't write out the goal of, I want to make an impact on the world. Write out the goal of, Caitlin is making an impact on the world. Like it's happening right now. It's who she is. That mindset shift, like literally just rewording your goals like that will be so helpful for actually achieving them. And it also makes it more fun. Like, it's like, oh, I'm doing it. That's who I am. Like, that's a fun mindset shift in my mind. Okay, next journaling prompt I want you to think about is anything related to fitness and health. I want you to ask yourself, what advice would you give your daughter about this subject? So if you were waking up every morning, looking in the mirror, saying, oh, I look bloated, I look overweight, I am a failure, would you tell your daughter that? Like, would you ever wake up your daughter in the morning and say, hey, breakfast is ready, you look overweight, you look bloated, you look like you're failing at life? No, I don't think you'd ever say that. I don't think that's something that you would say to your future daughter, so why would you say it to yourself? Why do you not think that you deserve the same love that you would give to someone else? Speak to yourself kindly, please. Shaming yourself into a better life doesn't really work, okay? Any transformation that you have is going to come from a place of self-love and understanding and compassion and respect, not judgment or shame or anything that's just rude. Speak kindly to yourself. You don't have to ignore, your faults. You can be real with yourself, but, speak kind words, be uplifting. I could go so far in depth onto what the Bible says about that, but that's for a different episode. Okay, last journaling prompt. What scares you about believing that it really could happen for you? Like, what are you afraid is going to happen if you just convince yourself that you are meant to live in your dream body? Like, what are you afraid is going to happen? Because the worst case scenario is you are wrong. And I don't know about you, but I would so much rather go for something and then be wrong about it, but at least know that I tried, than just pretend that I then just never go for it. Like, just never really, I don't know, never really try it because I just don't think it's going to work. Go for it. The worst thing that can happen is that you're wrong or that it doesn't work. Who cares? Just experiment. Go try. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Consider this episode to be your formal invitation to think differently about your situation, about your life, about your future. Okay? Maybe it's not because of your genetics. Maybe it's not because of the government. Maybe it's not because of it's just who you are. Maybe it's up to you. Like, maybe you really do have the ability to control what happens in the next 6 months of your life. Like, maybe you do have the ability to control whether or not you decide to invest in yourself and in your future and see the changes that you were always meant to see. Wow. That was my first podcast episode ever, and I have to tell you, I had to include this in here. I woke up this morning and I do this, I have a Claude Bible study plan that I created for myself, and literally the passage that I was studying this morning was, listen to this. Guess what the topic was? It was literally titled "Silence is a Sin," because I've been struggling to start this podcast for a while because I just get distracted with so many other things that I love doing with work and side quests, and I don't know. I love my life. There's a lot of I do a lot of things in my day, okay? So it was just kind of getting put on the back burner, and this is the passage that I was reading this morning. It was Proverbs 31, and it was verse 26. I love Proverbs 31 for obvious reasons. I don't think anyone can be I don't know how you can't love Proverbs 31. On the day that I decided but I had already decided I was going to record today, but it's just the fact that this was what I was supposed to read. This is insane. Okay, Proverbs 31, we're going to read verses 8 and 9 and then 26. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. There was literally a passage from Proverbs 31 that I was meant to read today because I was starting my podcast today. God knew. That's the only explanation, is that God knew. All right. That's wrap.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.